Hey, Daphne Scott here with Leadership in the Driver's Seat, and today I want to talk to you about change. Yeah, that very, very easy thing that we all love to do so much, which is change. And I was really reflecting on the changes that I've gone through in my life, like all of them, and how, there's like two sides to this. One side is that there's a part that seems like it doesn't change, right? Like we have this weird familiarity with ourselves and with the things around us. And yet, when I really look back at the whole scope of my life up to this point, I can really see so much. I mean, the changes, if you tried to encapsulate all of them, it would be almost too much to capture, actually. So I was thinking about change and how our relationship to that, how important that is and how much that matters, because at the root of everything, at the root of the deepest truth is that nothing is permanent. And that's what I was really thinking about today, was how nothing is really permanent. Nothing in our lives stays permanent. Nothing stays fixed. Even if you've been in a long-term relationship, or maybe you've had the job for 20 years, the role might seem like it's been static, but really everything has changed. And I was thinking about how people come to change, and there's a great formula that was, it's Gleicher actually came up with it, and then Dan Miller went on to popularize it in organizations with the change formula. And what they really talk about in the formula, and I'll put that in the notes below, but what they really talk about in the formula is how we come to change. And so oftentimes we come to change either through a greater vision for our life or a lot of dissatisfaction, or some combination of the two. And as I've looked at this more in organizations, and I've looked at it more in myself and in leaders, there's still a lot of that desire to just come to things because of a dissatisfaction. In other words, through suffering, versus being able to see a greater vision, versus being able to get past the threats that we think exist in our lives and the fear that we have about stepping into the unknown, which is really what's at the root of all of it, is the unknown, and coming to a greater vision. And so how can we do that? How can we really access that? And I really encourage leaders, this is the part that I encourage leaders to spend some time on and reflecting on themselves. I think this is like the root, this is the whole cause behind it. But taking some moments to reflect about what is the big vision? What are you, and by the way, it doesn't have to be like some earth-shattering, I'm going to save the world type of thing. It's great when that is, when it comes to that, that's great. But more so, it's like, maybe it's just for this year. Maybe it's just for this year that you create a cohesive team who can work well together. And I put just in there, that's not enough, right? But maybe that's it. Maybe it's that we really hit our business targets this year, and that will be in service to people being able to thrive in the workplace. Those sorts of things really start to set up more of a context of success and achieving that, by the way, goes beyond the individual's needs and individual desires. So now we're moving past just the me and into the we, right? So we start thinking more along the lines of win, win, win. When we come to things mostly from suffering, if you pay attention to your experience, what you notice is that the suffering is ours. So it's like my suffering, right? So I want to do, when I come to my actions from a place of just my own suffering, then all I'm concerned with, is relieving my own suffering, right? So when we can tap into that greater part of ourselves that isn't just about the self, it isn't just about my own individual needs, it's about my needs, the needs of my team, the needs of the organization, about the needs of the whole. It's a much more dynamic conversation. First of all, it is not for the impatient, that's for sure, but it's a much bigger conversation, and it carries a lot more weight, and it's much more impactful for everyone around us. So change. You can look up the change formula below, but it's really, really a foundational part, I think, for leaders to get in touch with. Now, here's the other thing I want you to know about this that's really important too. When we've been really successful in our lives and doing our lives a certain way, and we've hit certain levels of success, it's very, very scary to suddenly start doing things differently. I watch companies that go through mergers and acquisitions. I watch, bosses change, that sort of thing. And it's like, if I've been successful and I know how to work with this one person who I've worked with for 10 years, what crazy person would I have to be to go great, a new person. I have no idea how to work with that person. And so what is it to be successful with that person? And so we really get in touch with very quickly how much change can rattle us because we're so concerned about our success, and we've gotten so accustomed to doing things a certain way that it can be really challenging to want to change because we don't know what success looks like. We don't know, we might not be very confident about how to be successful with change. So it makes a lot of sense. The more that we can embrace it, though, the more that we can see the reality of it and be comfortable with it and understand when we're in that unknown space, understand that sometimes we don't know how we're going to be successful every minute of every day. I mean, which is like true for me every minute of every day, but we don't know all the ways around that. Then we can get more in touch with, oh, okay, yeah, this change, no wonder this has me a little rattled. And so signing up for a lot of change when we've been successful doing our life a certain way is also really scary. However, the more that we can open our hearts, the more that we can open to that capacity and see the truth that nothing is permanent, we get access to some really good stuff like deeper levels of appreciation and gratitude at the same time that we can embrace the truth of our existence here on good old planet Earth on this big blue marble and see that nothing is permanent and embrace that all the way. And then hopefully live into a bigger vision of our lives. So those were some thoughts I was thinking about today. I was really looking at, there's a lot that changes in my life, a lot of things that have changed over the past few years. I've had my own challenges and stepping into greater and greater levels of leadership and transformation and expansion into those roles and working with people who want to be better in their roles in leadership and in life. And that all requires a certain tolerance for regular amounts of change. So let me know what you think, and we'll see you soon.